The ancient Draconian Empire had ruled the Outer Rim for 3,000 years. Their massive ships, each one the size of a small moon, controlled trade routes that stretched across 17 star systems. The dragon-like beings stood 12 feet tall, with scales that shimmered like molten metal, and eyes that could see through the quantum spectrum itself. But something terrible had happened to their leader. Emperor Vexithara, the oldest and most powerful of the dragons, had gone blind. Not from age or injury, but from something far worse. His quantum vision had been corrupted by exposure to a rare cosmic storm while protecting his people. The storm had twisted the very fabric of space around his optical cortex, leaving him in eternal darkness. For months, the greatest minds in the Empire worked on a cure. Scientists from dozens of worlds brought their most advanced technology. Crystal healers from the ice moons of Arcturus tried their ancient arts. Nothing worked. The Emperor's condition only grew worse, and with it, the Empire's hope began to fade. That's when they heard about Earth. The humans were a young species, barely 1,000 years into space travel. They had no quantum technology, no crystal healing, no advanced medical systems that could compete with the Empire's best. But they had something else. Something that made the dragons curious enough to send an envoy. The human ship that arrived at the imperial capital was tiny compared to the dragon vessels surrounding it. It looked like a metal pebble next to mountain ranges. But aboard that small ship was Dr. Sarah Chen, a xenobiologist who specialized in treating alien diseases, and her 8-year-old granddaughter, Emma. Sarah had brought Emma along because the girl had a gift. She could see things others missed, patterns in nature that escaped even the most trained scientists. Emma had helped her grandmother discover cures for 3 different alien plagues by noticing connections that sophisticated computers had overlooked. The dragon nobles who greeted them at the docking bay looked skeptical. Admiral Kethnos, the Emperor's military commander, towered over the humans with obvious disdain. "These creatures are barely taller than our younglings," he rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "How can they help when our greatest healers have failed?" Sarah stepped forward, her medical scanner already analyzing the ship's atmosphere. "Sometimes the smallest observers see the biggest truths, Admiral." "May we examine the Emperor?" The dragon's laugh shook the metal walls. "The Emperor sees no one in his current state. He has retreated to the deep chambers, where the quantum resonance is strongest. Even we cannot approach without protective gear." Emma tugged on her grandmother's coat. "Grandma, what's that sound?" Sarah paused, listening. The dragons looked confused. They heard nothing unusual, just the normal hum of their quantum-powered systems. "What sound, sweetie?" Sarah asked. Emma pointed toward the center of the station. "It's like crying, but really, really deep. Like a wail, but sadder." The dragons exchanged glances. Admiral Kethnos leaned down toward the small human girl. "Child, you hear something in the deep chambers?" Emma nodded. "It hurts to listen to. Can I help him feel better?" For the first time since the humans arrived, the Admiral's expression softened. Dragons had deep respect for younglings who showed wisdom beyond their years. "Come. But you must wear protection suits. The Emperor's quantum field fluctuations could damage your biological systems." They descended through levels of the station that grew progressively darker. The dragon's technology relied heavily on quantum light, but here, that light was twisted and wrong. Sarah's instruments went haywire as they approached the deep chambers. The electromagnetic readings made no sense, but Emma walked steadily forward, her small hand gripping her grandmother's tightly. "The sound is getting stronger," she whispered. "He's really scared." They reached a massive door carved with dragon symbols. Beyond it lay the Emperor's chambers, where quantum fields swirled in chaotic patterns that hurt to look at. Admiral Kethnos activated the communication system. "Your Imperial Majesty, the human healers have arrived," a voice answered, deep and broken. "Send them away, Admiral. I will see no one. The darkness has taken everything." Emma stepped forward and spoke into the communicator. "Mr. Dragon Emperor, sir? My name is Emma. I can hear you crying. Are your eyes broken?" Silence stretched for long moments. Then, quietly, "Young one, yes. My sight is gone. The cosmic storm took it from me." "I'm sorry that happened to you," Emma said. "But Grandma Sarah is really good at fixing things. Can we try to help?" Another pause. Then the massive doors began to open. The chamber beyond defied description. Quantum energy swirled in patterns that seemed to bend reality itself. At the center, on a platform surrounded by flowing energy streams, sat Emperor Vexathera. He was magnificent even in his suffering, his golden scales dulled by the chaotic forces surrounding him. His eyes, once brilliant amber capable of seeing across dimensional barriers, were now clouded white, constantly weeping a strange, luminescent fluid. Sarah immediately began taking readings, while Emma walked as close to the quantum barrier as safety allowed. The quantum storm created a feedback loop in his optical neurons, Sarah explained to Admiral Kethnos. His brain is trying to process vision on frequencies that don't exist anymore. It's like trying to hear music on a radio that's stuck between stations. "Our scientists have tried quantum realignment therapy," the Admiral replied. "Nothing works." Emma was studying the Emperor's tears with intense concentration. The glowing drops fell from his eyes and evaporated before hitting the ground, but she seemed fascinated by their pattern. "Grandma," she said suddenly, "look at where the tears disappear." Sarah focused her instruments on the spot Emma indicated. Her readings spiked immediately. "Incredible," Sarah breathed. "The tears aren't just biological fluid. They're quantum-charged particles. His body is trying to purge the damaged quantum information through his tear ducts." Emma nodded sagely. "So we need to help him cry out all the bad stuff, right?" "It's not that simple, sweetie. The quantum particles are too unstable. They need something to bind to, something to carry them safely out of his system." Emma was quiet for a moment, thinking hard. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small glass vial filled with ordinary soil from Earth. "What about this?" she asked. Sarah looked at the dirt her granddaughter had collected from their garden back home. "Emma, that's just regular soil." "But it's from Earth," Emma said. "And Earth dirt is really good at soaking things up. Remember when we planted the flowers and you said the soil held all the nutrients the plants needed?" Sarah stared at the vial. Earth soil was indeed highly absorbent, with a complex molecular structure that could bind to various compounds. But quantum particles? "Admiral," Sarah said slowly, "we'd like to try something. It might sound unusual." The dragon leader looked skeptical. "What do you propose?" "We want to create eye drops, using Earth soil as a binding agent for the quantum particles." Admiral Kethnos' expression was unreadable. "You wish to put dirt in the Emperor's eyes?" "Specially prepared dirt," Sarah clarified. "The soil particles might be able to absorb the damaged quantum information and carry it out of his system naturally." From his platform, Emperor Vexathera spoke. "I have endured months of pain, Admiral. If these humans believe their Earth drops might help, I am willing to try." Sarah worked quickly, using the station's medical facilities to create a sterile solution. She suspended microscopic particles of Emma's garden soil in a quantum-stable medium, creating drops that shimmered with an unusual inner light. "This is completely experimental," she warned as they prepared to administer the treatment. "I have no idea what will happen." Emma squeezed her grandmother's hand. "It'll work. The soil wants to help. I can feel it." Sarah approached the Emperor's platform, the quantum fields making her skin tingle uncomfortably. She carefully placed 3 drops of the Earth solution in each of the Emperor's clouded eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Emperor's tears began to change. Instead of the chaotic, glowing discharge from before, they became clear and steady. The quantum particles that had been swirling randomly around his head began to slow, then settle into the tear streams. "The quantum resonance is stabilizing," Admiral Kethnos reported, reading from his instruments. "The chaotic patterns are organizing." Emperor Vexithara sat perfectly still as the Earth drops worked. His tears flowed freely now, carrying away months of accumulated quantum damage. The cloudy film over his eyes began to clear, bit by bit. And then, after what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, the Emperor blinked, his eyes focused. He looked directly at Emma and smiled. "I can see," he whispered. Then louder, "I can see." The chamber erupted in celebration as dragon guards who had been monitoring from outside rushed in to witness their Emperor's recovery. Admiral Kethnos fell to his knees in gratitude, and even the normally stoic station AI announced the miracle across the entire facility. But Emma was tugging on her grandmother's sleeve again. "Grandma," she said quietly, "there's something else." Sarah knelt down to Emma's level. "What is it, sweetie?" Emma pointed toward the chamber's viewing screen, which showed the space around the station. "Those ships that were hidden, they're not hiding anymore." Sarah looked at the screen and felt her blood freeze. Across the star field, previously invisible vessels were beginning to decloak. Not dragon ships, these were sleek, dark, and unmistakably predatory in design. Admiral Kethnos saw them too. His celebration turned to alarm as he activated his communication system. "All defense stations, this is Admiral Kethnos. We have multiple unknown vessels decloaking in Sector 7. Request immediate identification." The response came quickly, but not from the station's defenders. A cold, mechanical voice filled the chamber. "This is War Prime Zekthul of the Void Reapers. We have been monitoring your Emperor's condition, waiting for the appropriate moment to claim this territory. We congratulate you on his recovery. It will make our conquest more satisfying." Emperor Vexthara rose from his platform, his newly healed eyes blazing with ancient fury. "The Void Reapers. I should have known they would come when they thought us weakest." Sarah grabbed Emma's hand protectively. "Who are the Void Reapers?" Admiral Kethnos's expression was grim. "Ancient enemies of the Empire. They've been waiting decades for an opportunity like this, when our defenses were focused inward on the Emperor's condition rather than on external threats." On the screen, more ships continued to appear, dozens, then hundreds. The Void Reaper fleet was massive, clearly prepared for a full-scale invasion. "How many?" Emperor Vexithara demanded. "Sensors show 13,000 ships, Your Majesty. They've been cloaked in this system for weeks, possibly months." The Emperor turned to Sarah and Emma, his expression grave. "Humans, you have given me back my sight, but I fear you have arrived at a moment when that sight reveals only darkness ahead. The Void Reapers are ruthless. They take no prisoners and leave no survivors." Emma was still looking at the screen, her young face thoughtful. "Mr. Emperor, why did they wait until now to show themselves?" Emperor Vexithara considered her question. "They wanted to be certain of our weakness. A blind emperor cannot lead his people in battle, but now that I can see again, now they have to attack quickly," Emma finished. "Before you can prepare." The Dragon Emperor looked at the human child with new respect. "Wise words, young one. Yes, they will strike soon." Admiral Kethnos was coordinating with the station's defense forces, but his reports were increasingly dire. "Your Majesty, our response fleet is scattered across 3 systems, dealing with the trade route disruptions your condition caused. We can't possibly match 13,000 ships with what we have here." Sarah felt a chill of fear. They had come to help heal a dragon emperor's blindness and instead had walked into the middle of a war. But as she watched the Void Reaper ships positioning themselves for attack, she noticed something odd. Emma was still staring at the screen, but not with fear. Her granddaughter looked calculating. "Emma, what are you thinking about?" Emma looked up at her grandmother, then at the Emperor. "Mr. Emperor, when you could see with your special dragon eyes, could you see things that were hidden?" "Yes, young Emma. Dragon quantum vision allows us to perceive cloaked vessels, dimensional rifts, energy signatures across multiple spectrums." Emma nodded. "And the bad guys waited until you couldn't see to bring their ships here because they knew you would spot them if your eyes worked." "Correct." Emma's next words made everyone in the chamber freeze. "So they don't know your eyes work again yet, do they?" Emperor Vexithara's eyes widened as Emma's words sank in. The child was right. The Void Reapers had no way of knowing his sight had been restored. Their intelligence networks had been monitoring the Empire for months, watching for signs of weakness. All their information showed a blind emperor, isolated in his chambers, unable to lead his forces effectively. "Admiral," the Emperor said quietly, "maintain communication silence about my recovery. Let them believe I am still disabled." Admiral Kethnos nodded grimly. "What are your orders, Your Majesty?" Before the Emperor could respond, Emma tugged on his massive scaled arm. "Mr. Emperor, can I ask you something?" The dragon leader knelt down to her level, his newly healed eyes focusing intently on the small human. "Of course, young one. Your wisdom has already proven invaluable. If you can see all their ships now, and they think you can't see anything, doesn't that mean you know something they don't want you to know?" Emperor Vexithara paused, his enhanced vision sweeping across the tactical display. Now that his quantum sight was restored, he could see far more than just the 13,000 visible Void Reaper ships. He could see their energy signatures, their weapon configurations, their formation patterns, and something else. "By the ancient flames," he breathed. "Admiral, focus sensors on the asteroid field in Sector 12. Admiral Kethnos adjusted the display. "I see nothing unusual, Your Majesty. Look deeper. Use quantum resonance scanning." The Admiral's instruments probed deeper into space. Suddenly his expression changed. "Impossible. There are more ships, hidden behind quantum shields so sophisticated our standard sensors can't detect them." Emma nodded sagely. "The bad guys have secret ships too." Emperor Vexithara's quantum vision revealed the full scope of the Void Reaper plan. The 13,000 visible ships were just the first wave. Hidden throughout the system were another 7,000 vessels, positioned to cut off escape routes and prevent reinforcements from arriving. It was a trap designed to crush the Empire completely. "They plan total annihilation," the Emperor said grimly. "Not just conquest, but the complete destruction of our civilization." Sarah listened to this exchange with growing unease. "Emperor, we need to get Emma to safety. This isn't our fight." "Grandma," Emma said seriously, "we can't leave. Not when we can help. Emma, we're just two humans against 20,000 enemy ships. What could we possibly do?" Emma looked thoughtful for a moment, then turned back to Emperor Vexithara. "Mr. Emperor, you said the storm that hurt your eyes twisted space around your brain?" "Yes. The cosmic storm created quantum distortions that interfered with my optical processing. And the dirt from Earth helped fix it by soaking up the bad quantum stuff? The soil particles provided a molecular matrix that allowed the damaged quantum information to be safely expelled from my system, yes." Emma nodded and reached into her other pocket, pulling out another small container. This one held water from their garden pond back on Earth. "Grandma, remember when you said Earth things are special because our planet has lots of different materials that don't exist other places?" Sarah looked at the water sample Emma had brought. Yes, Earth has a unique geological and biological composition. But, sweetie, I don't see how pond water is going to help against a space fleet. What if it's not about fighting? Emma asked. What if it's about hiding? Emperor Vexithara leaned closer. Explain your thoughts, young one. Emma held up the water container. You said the storm twisted space, and the dirt helped fix the twisting in your eyes. But what if we could twist space on purpose? The Dragon Emperor's expression grew intense. You're suggesting we create an artificial quantum distortion field. I think she's suggesting we use Earth materials to generate the same kind of spatial displacement that damaged your vision, Sarah said slowly, beginning to understand. But controlled this time. Admiral Kethnos looked confused. To what end? Emma's next words were delivered with the simple confidence of a child who had just solved a complex puzzle. To hide your ships the same way the bad guys are hiding theirs. The chamber fell silent as the implications hit everyone present. The Void Reapers believed they held the advantage of surprise with their hidden fleet, but if the dragons could cloak their own reinforcements using Earth-based quantum distortion technology, the molecular composition of your planet's materials, Emperor Vexithara mused, they could theoretically create quantum interference patterns that would mask our ship's signatures. Sarah was already analyzing the water sample with her instruments. The mineral content is incredibly complex, trace elements from dozens of different geological sources, plus organic compounds from pond life. It's like a molecular fingerprint of Earth's entire biosphere. Can it be replicated? Admiral Kethnos asked. Not exactly, Sarah replied, but we might be able to synthesize a solution that produces similar quantum interference effects. Emma was looking at the tactical display again. How many dragon ships are hidden in other places? Admiral Kethnos checked his strategic database. The Emperor's condition forced us to scatter our defense fleets across multiple systems to maintain trade security. We have approximately 8,000 ships within 2 days' travel. So, if we could hide them until they got here, Emma said, the bad guys wouldn't know they were coming. Emperor Vexithara stood up, his healed eyes blazing with renewed purpose. Admiral, send coded messages to all scattered fleets. Tell them to converge on this system, but maintain maximum distance until further orders. Begin preparation for quantum distortion field generation using the human-provided materials. Your Majesty, Admiral Kethnos said carefully, we're basing our entire strategy on untested technology derived from pond water. The untested technology derived from garden soil restored my sight when your greatest scientists could not, the Emperor replied. Sometimes the universe's greatest solutions come from its simplest sources. As the dragons began implementing their desperate plan, the Void Reaper fleet continued positioning itself for attack. War Prime Zekthul's flagship, a massive vessel bristling with weapons designed to crack planets, broadcast another message. Emperor Vexithara, your silence confirms our intelligence reports. You remain blinded and helpless. We give you one final opportunity to surrender your empire intact. Your response is required within 6 hours, or we will begin systematic destruction of your worlds. In the command chamber, Emperor Vexithara listened to the ultimatum with cold fury. But when he responded, his voice was weak and defeated. War Prime Zekthul, I cannot see your ships. I cannot lead my people in battle. What terms do you offer for surrender? The response was immediate and brutal. No terms, Blind Emperor. Only total submission. Your ships will be scuttled, your worlds occupied, your people enslaved. You have 6 hours to accept the inevitable. Emma tugged on the Emperor's arm. You're really good at pretending, she whispered. The dragon leader winked at her with his newly healed eyes. Deception is sometimes the greatest weapon, young Emma. Meanwhile, Sarah worked frantically with the station's scientists to develop their Earth-based cloaking system. The process was incredibly complex, requiring them to suspend microscopic particles of pond water in quantum-stable fields that could be projected around entire spaceships. "The theoretical framework is sound," reported Chief Scientist Mordak, an elderly dragon with deep expertise in quantum mechanics. "The Earth-water particles create interference patterns that could mask quantum signatures, but the power requirements are enormous." "How enormous?" Sarah asked. "To cloak 8,000 ships simultaneously? We would need to drain the power cores of half our fleet just to maintain the field." Admiral Kethnos looked grim. "That would leave our ships defensively weakened when they decloaked for attack." Emma, who had been listening quietly, suddenly spoke up. "What if we didn't cloak all the ships at the same time?" The adults turned to her. "What do you mean, sweetie?" Sarah asked. "Like hide and seek," Emma explained. "You don't have to hide everyone forever just until it's their turn to be seekers." Emperor Vexithara's expression grew thoughtful. "A phased approach. Cloak ships in groups, allow them to approach undetected, then decloak them in waves for coordinated attacks. The power requirements would be manageable if done in stages," Chief Scientist Mordak agreed. "And the tactical advantage would be enormous." As they refined their plan, the station's long-range sensors detected the approach of the first Dragon reinforcement fleets. Admiral Kethnos coordinated their movements, directing them to predetermined positions just outside the system's detection range. "First wave is in position," he reported. 2,000 ships, maintaining radio silence. Sarah had successfully synthesized enough earth-water solution to cloak that many vessels. The quantum distortion field generators were charged and ready. "Activate cloaking fields," Emperor Vexithara commanded. On the tactical display, 2,000 Dragon ships simply vanished from sensors. Even with his enhanced quantum vision, the Emperor could barely detect them. The Earth-based cloaking was incredibly effective. "Second wave ETA is 90 minutes, Admiral Kethnos reported. Third wave, 3 hours after that." Emma was studying the Void Reaper formation on the main screen. "Mr. Emperor, the bad guys have their ships in a big circle around the planet." "Yes, it's a standard siege formation. They want to prevent any escape while maximizing their firepower advantage. But that means they're spread out, right? Not all bunched together?" Emperor Vexithara followed her gaze. "Correct. Their formation prioritizes containment over concentrated defense." Emma nodded. "So if your hidden ships attacked from different directions at the same time, the bad guys couldn't help each other very much." The tactical brilliance of the child's observation struck everyone in the room. The Void Reaper formation was designed to trap the dragons inside their perimeter, but it also meant the enemy ships were dispersed across a wide area. A coordinated attack from multiple angles would force them to fight dozens of separate battles simultaneously. "Admiral," the Emperor commanded, "modify our approach vectors. I want our cloaked forces positioned for simultaneous strikes on 6 different sections of their perimeter." "That will require precise timing," Admiral Kethnos warned. "If any group decloaks too early or too late, the entire plan fails." "Then we won't make timing errors," the Emperor replied simply. As the Dragon reinforcements continued to arrive and disappear behind Earth-water cloaking fields, Sarah monitored the quantum distortion generators. The strain on the station's power systems was enormous, but manageable in phases as Emma had suggested. "Fourth wave cloaked and in position," Admiral Kethnos reported. "Total hidden force now at 7,000 ships." On the main screen, the Void Reaper fleet maintained its siege formation, completely unaware that they were now outnumbered by hidden enemies. War Prime Zekthul's flagship continued broadcasting demands for surrender as the 6-hour deadline approached. With 1 hour remaining, the final Dragon reinforcements arrived. 8,000 ships total, all hidden behind quantum fields generated by pond water from a small planet called Earth. Emperor Vexithara turned to Emma and her grandmother. "Young one, Your wisdom has given my people hope when we had none. When this battle begins, you will be taken to the safest shelters on the station." Emma shook her head. "I want to stay and watch. Please?" "The battle will be dangerous, sweetie," Sarah said. "The station might be attacked." "But I want to see if it works," Emma insisted. "I want to see the bad guys' faces when your ships appear." Emperor Vexithara considered this request. Children among the dragons were treasured for their insights, and Emma had proven herself exceptional. "Very well, but you will remain in the protected command chamber with full defensive shields active." As the deadline approached, War Prime Zekthul made his final broadcast. "Time is up, Blind Emperor. Your silence seals your fate. All ships, begin assault pattern. Show these dragons the price of defiance." 13,000 Void Reaper ships began moving toward the dragon positions, their weapons charging for devastating attack runs. Additional enemy vessels decloaked from their hiding spots throughout the system, revealing their true numbers to sensors for the first time. 20,000 ships, Admiral Kethnos reported grimly. They were hiding even more than we detected. But Emperor Vexithara was smiling. His quantum vision showed him something the sensors could not. The hidden dragon fleet, positioned perfectly for simultaneous strikes on 6 different attack vectors. "All hidden fleets. This is your Emperor," he broadcast on encrypted channels. "Prepare for coordinated decloak in 30 seconds. Target selection is at fleet commander discretion, but priority is their command ships and carriers." Emma watched the tactical display with intense concentration. To her, it looked like a video game where the good guys were about to surprise the bad guys in the best possible way. 10 seconds, Admiral Kethnos announced. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Execute. Across the system, 8,000 dragon ships simultaneously dropped their earth-water cloaking fields and opened fire. The Void Reapers, caught completely off guard, found themselves under attack from directions they had never seen coming. Their careful formation dissolved into chaos as dragon ships appeared seemingly from nowhere, striking with precision and fury. War Prime Zekthul's voice screamed across communication channels. "Impossible! Where did they come from? How many ships do they have?" Emperor Vexithara's response was calm and terrible. "I can see you, Zekthul. All of you. And you walked into my trap." But even as the dragons pressed their advantage, Emma noticed something troubling on the display. Some of the Void Reaper ships weren't fighting back. They were running toward something. "Grandma," she said urgently, "some of the bad ships are going toward that big asteroid." Sarah looked at the screen. Emma was right. A significant number of enemy vessels were retreating toward a large asteroid in the outer system, despite taking losses from pursuing dragon ships. Emperor Vexithara focused his quantum vision on the asteroid. What he saw made his blood freeze. "Admiral, emergency priority message to all fleets. That asteroid is artificial. It's a weapon." The asteroid was indeed artificial, and as Emperor Vexithara's quantum vision penetrated its outer shell, he discovered something that chilled him to his core. The entire structure was a massive weapon, designed not just to destroy ships, but to crack planets and collapse entire star systems. "It's a stellar collapse device," he announced to the command chamber. "The Void Reapers plan to destroy our sun if they lose the battle." Admiral Kethnos stared at the tactical display in horror. "A weapon like that would kill billions, not just dragons, but every living thing in 17 star systems." Sarah grabbed Emma protectively. "We need to evacuate. Get as far away from here as possible." But Emma was studying the display with the same intense concentration she had shown earlier. "Mr. Emperor, how long would it take for that weapon to work?" Emperor Vexithara's enhanced vision analyzed the energy patterns around the artificial asteroid. "Once activated, approximately 40 minutes to achieve stellar collapse. But young one, we cannot stop it. The weapon is surrounded by defensive shields that our ships cannot penetrate." "What if you didn't have to penetrate them?" Emma asked quietly. The Emperor paused. "What do you mean?" Emma held up the containers that had held the soil and water from Earth. "You said the dirt helped fix your eyes by soaking up bad stuff, right? And the water helped hide your ships by twisting space?" "Yes, but what if we put Earth stuff inside the weapon instead of trying to break it from outside?" Sarah looked at her granddaughter with a mixture of pride and terror. "Emma, you're talking about getting close enough to that thing to deliver materials directly to its core. That's impossible." "Not impossible," Emma said. "Just really hard." Emperor Vexithara's quantum vision was examining the weapon more closely. The child may be correct. The weapon operates by creating controlled quantum instabilities that cascade through stellar matter. If we could introduce stabilizing agents directly into its core systems, the Earth materials could disrupt the cascade, Chief Scientist Mordak finished, his excitement growing. "Just as they stabilize the quantum distortions in your optical cortex, they could stabilize the weapon's destabilization field." Admiral Kethnos looked skeptical. "The weapon is surrounded by 1,000 Void Reaper ships. How do we get close enough to deliver anything to its core?" Emma tugged on the Emperor's arm again. "Mr. Emperor, can your special eyes see inside the weapon?" The Dragon Leader focused his quantum vision deeper into the artificial asteroid. "Yes, the internal structure is complex. Multiple fusion cores, quantum field generators, gravitational manipulation chambers. But there, near the center, there's a control nexus where all the systems converge. And if Earth stuff got into that nexus, it would theoretically neutralize the weapon's ability to create the quantum cascade needed for stellar collapse." Emma nodded and reached into her backpack, pulling out a third container. This one held something that made Sarah's eyes widen, a small terrarium containing a living Earth ecosystem. Soil, water, plants, even tiny insects, all maintained in a self-contained environment. "Emma, why did you bring that?" "I wanted to show the aliens what Earth looks like," Emma explained. "But now I think the Earth stuff wants to help stop the bad weapon." Emperor Vexithara stared at the miniature ecosystem. "A complete biological sample from your world. The quantum interactions between living and non-living Earth matter would be incredibly complex. And incredibly disruptive to artificial quantum systems," Chief Scientist Mordak added. "But the delivery problem remains impossible." Emma looked thoughtful. "What if we didn't deliver it with ships?" "Then how?" Admiral Kethnos asked. "The same way plants send their seeds. In the wind." The adults exchanged confused glances, but Emma was already explaining. "Mr. Emperor, you said space is twisted around the weapon, right? Like a whirlpool?" "The gravitational manipulation creates spatial distortions, yes. So if we put the Earth stuff in something small and let the whirlpool suck it in, it would go right to the center." Sarah suddenly understood. "She's talking about using the weapon's own gravitational field to deliver the Earth materials to its core. But the containment would have to survive the journey through hostile space, past defensive systems, and into the weapon's core," Admiral Kethnos pointed out. Emma held up her terrarium. "Earth stuff is really good at surviving." Emperor Vexithara was running calculations in his head. "A small delivery pod, designed to look like space debris. The gravitational field would pull it directly toward the core. If we could mask its approach." "We still have Earth water cloaking material available," Sarah offered. "It could work," the Emperor said slowly. "But someone would have to pilot the delivery pod close enough to the weapon for the gravitational field to capture it. And that pilot would likely not survive the mission." The command chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They had a plan that could save 17 star systems, but it required someone to undertake a suicide mission. "I'll do it," Admiral Kethnos said immediately. No, Emperor Vexithera replied. I will. It is my duty as Emperor. Your Majesty, the Empire needs you alive. I insist. Neither of you has to do it, Emma interrupted. We can make the pod smart enough to fly itself. Sarah looked at her granddaughter. Emma, the weapon's defensive systems will shoot at anything approaching it. Not if they can't see it coming, Emma replied. And not if it's too small to worry about. Emperor Vexthera's eyes lit up as he understood. A fully automated micropod, cloaked with earth-water distortion fields, programmed to navigate using the weapon's own gravitational pull. Chief Scientist Mordak was already working out the details. We can build it using materials from your human shuttle. The pod only needs to survive long enough to reach the weapon's core and release the Earth materials. As the dragons worked frantically to construct their desperate gambit, the space battle continued to rage around them. The Dragon Fleet had gained the upper hand through their surprise attack, but the Void Reapers were fighting with the fury of cornered predators. War Prime Zekthul's voice crackled over communication channels. Blind Emperor, your tricks will not save you. In 20 minutes, I activate the stellar collapse device. Your entire civilization dies with you. Emperor Vexithara responded calmly. I am not as blind as you believe, Zekthul. Your boasts mean nothing. The weapon is beyond your reach. But the Emperor was watching his scientists complete their micropod. The device was barely larger than Emma's terrarium, built around the living Earth ecosystem that would hopefully disrupt the weapon's core systems. Earth-water cloaking generators would hide it from sensors, and its flight path would use gravitational currents to navigate past defensive systems. Micropod is ready for launch, Chief Scientist Mordak reported. Emma held her terrarium one last time, looking at the tiny plants and insects inside. Good luck, little Earth friends. Go save everybody. The pod was loaded into the station's smallest launch tube and fired toward the artificial asteroid. On sensors, it appeared to be nothing more than a piece of space debris. Tumbling helplessly through the battle zone, the Void Reaper defensive systems ignored it completely. Pod trajectory is nominal, Admiral Kethnos reported. Gravitational capture in 12 minutes. As they watched the tiny pod drift toward the massive weapon, Emma noticed something else on the tactical display. Mr. Emperor, the bad ships are doing something weird. Emperor Vexithera focused his quantum vision on the Void Reaper fleet. Emma was right. Instead of continuing to fight, many enemy ships were pulling back toward their own hiding positions. They're preparing to retreat, he realized. Once the weapon activates, they plan to escape to a safe distance and watch our star collapse. Cowards! Admiral Kethnos growled. Smart cowards, the Emperor corrected. They know they cannot defeat us in fair battle, so they will use terror weapons and then run. Pod entering weapon's gravitational field, Chief Scientist Mordak announced. Defensive systems are not responding. It appears to be working. On the screen, the tiny pod disappeared into the swirling energy patterns around the artificial asteroid. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then the weapon's surface began to show subtle changes in its energy patterns. The Earth materials are interacting with the weapon's core systems, the Emperor observed. Quantum stability in the stellar collapse chambers is fluctuating. War Prime Zekthul's voice suddenly erupted over communications, filled with confusion and rage. What is happening to the weapon? The quantum cascade is destabilizing. Emperor Vexithera smiled. Perhaps you should have studied Earth biology before threatening our star, Zekthul. Inside the weapon's core, Emma's terrarium was doing exactly what Earth ecosystems do best, creating complex, self-regulating interactions that resist artificial disruption. The living plants were absorbing and redirecting energy in patterns the weapon's designers had never anticipated. The soil was binding to quantum particles, just as it had in the Emperor's healing. The water was creating interference patterns that confused the gravitational manipulation systems. Most importantly, the insects were doing what insects do. They were reproducing and spreading, carrying Earth biological matter into every corner of the weapon's internal systems. Cascade failure is accelerating, Chief Scientist Mordak reported with growing excitement. The weapon is losing coherence. On the main screen, the artificial asteroid's surface began to crack and buckle as its internal systems failed. Energy that had been contained and focused for stellar destruction was now bleeding chaotically into space, creating beautiful but harmless light displays. War Prime Zekthul's final transmission was filled with disbelief. Impossible. 1,000 years of development defeated by dirt and plants? Emperor Vexthara's response was gentle but implacable. You underestimated the power of life, Zekthul. Life always finds a way to survive and protect itself. The artificial asteroid collapsed entirely, its dangerous technology neutralized by Earth's most basic biological processes. The Void Reaper fleet, seeing their ultimate weapon destroyed and facing superior dragon numbers, began a hasty retreat toward the edge of the system. Let them go, the Emperor commanded as his ships moved to pursue. They are broken. Word of this defeat will spread throughout the galaxy, and they will not threaten us again soon. In the command chamber, Emma was being hugged enthusiastically by her grandmother while dragon scientists celebrated around them. The battle was over, the Empire was saved, and 17 star systems would continue to exist because a human child had brought dirt, water, and bugs from her garden. Admiral Kethnos knelt before Emma with the formal respect dragons showed to great heroes. Young Emma of Earth, your wisdom has saved billions of lives. The Empire owes you a debt that can never be repaid. Emma looked thoughtful. Can I ask for something? Anything within our power to grant, Emperor Vexathera promised. Can you help us make friends with more aliens, not for fighting but for sharing things? Earth has lots of stuff that might help other people, and other planets probably have stuff that could help Earth people too. The Dragon Emperor's healed eyes sparkled with amusement and respect. Young diplomat, you have just described the foundation of a galactic alliance. Yes, I believe we can arrange that. As the Dragon fleet regrouped and began rescue operations for damaged ships, Sarah watched her granddaughter with amazement. In the span of a single day, Emma had helped heal an emperor's blindness, developed new cloaking technology, defeated a doomsday weapon, and proposed interstellar diplomacy. How did you know all that would work? Sarah asked her. Emma shrugged with the casual confidence of childhood. I didn't know. But Earth stuff is really good at fixing problems, and the problems needed fixing, so I figured they would figure it out together. Emperor Vexathara overheard this exchange and nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps that is the greatest wisdom of all, young Emma. Sometimes the solution is not to force an answer, but to trust that the right elements, brought together with good intentions, will find their own way to harmony. 6 months later, the first Earth Dragon Cultural Exchange Program was established. Human scientists worked alongside dragon quantum physicists to explore the unique properties of Earth materials. Dragon artists collaborated with human musicians to create new forms of interstellar music. And in the center of the imperial capital, a small garden grew where Emma's terrarium had been replanted, a living symbol of how the smallest acts of kindness and wisdom can grow to change entire civilizations. War Prime Zekthul and the remnants of his fleet were eventually captured by a joint Earth Dragon patrol near the edge of known space. When asked why he had surrendered without a fight, the former warlord simply said, "I will not face Earth magic again." The captured Void Reapers were given a choice: life imprisonment or working in the new Earth gardens that had been established throughout the Dragon Empire. Most chose the gardens, and many former warriors found unexpected peace in learning to nurture life instead of destroying it. Emma, Now famous throughout 17 star systems as the Little Earth Healer, continued to travel with her grandmother on xenobiological research missions. But she always carried a small container of soil from her garden, just in case they encountered problems that needed the special kind of fixing that only Earth could provide. And in the deep chambers where Emperor Vexithara had once wept tears of quantum anguish, dragon younglings now came to hear the story of how a human child with dirt in her pockets had saved their entire civilization by simply believing that different things, working together, could accomplish what seemed impossible alone. The story became a legend, passed down through generations of both species. But to Emma, it was just a reminder that the best solutions often come not from the most complicated technologies or the most powerful weapons, but from the simple truth that everything in the universe is connected, and when you help one thing heal, everything else gets a little stronger too.